So I thought I would do an introduction slash update video on the Peabody Merrimack Valley layout. An introduction video for those of you who have not seen my prior episodes on the progress of this layout on my other channel. This is to kind of introduce you guys what this whole layout is about and how I started it. And an update video for those of you who have watched my previous episodes. So let's get started. I'm standing in the doorway of the train room down in the basement. So I started this layout about 4 years ago. I didn't have room in the basement of my house because I ended up finishing it. And I really wanted a place to build my trains. So I built these trains in this basement. Now this basement is underneath a laundromat that I own, and I also own the building, so I had all this space available down in the basement, and I thought, why not build my layout down here? It's kind of an odd place to build a layout, but I don't really have any choice since I don't have room in my house. So as you walk in, you can see a general overview of the layout. What I'll do is I'll explain how the different loops, there's two loops, there's an upper loop and a lower loop, and I'll show you guys how they go through the whole layout. So starting over here is some of my locomotives. I'm using the Glenn Schneider shelving system that I bolted to this wall that I had put up. This area over here is going to be my downtown area. As you can see, I've got a couple of buildings and some cutouts for buildings I plan on purchasing in the future. All the buildings here are Woodland Scenics. They come pre-lit and pre-assembled. I really like the detail on them. As you can see, the nice fire escape behind the Dugan's paint building, and then you've got the dumpster and the trash cans. Some nice details on these buildings. Then behind me is, this is my yard table. Eventually what I'd like to do is build a lift out bridge that's going to cut across. It will start over here. You can see the siding that comes off of the main line here, and it's going to come down. Going to curve across, and I want to have some sort of a lift out bridge that comes across here, and you can see some of my rolling stock and my scenery items. The table looks like a mess right now because this layout is a work in progress, and I've got some Gargrave straight tracks to store my trains. I'd like to make this yard with Gargraves and Ross switches. And you can see some of my equipment in the back there that I use to work on the layout. Then an update that I've made to this layout since my last episode is I started playing around with the putting down some ground cover and some bushes. I'm pretty happy with how it's come out as far as the variety of color. I use the underbrush and the bushes. And here's some ballast on the track. put down. This is going to be a road that's going to go underneath. Going to go over here to the town. And then over here, next to the track, between that wooden rod and the track, I want to build a park with maybe a gazebo and one of Woodland Scenic's light poles that have the spotlight. You can see more of the ballast I've put down. I've put some ballast down over here on this track over here. This is another hill. I'm going to put scenery down. I kind of started to put some rock molds down, and I like the look of the rocks jutting out next to the track. So I think I'm going to continue it all the way around to over here. So I filled in the cracks here with the Sculptor mold. I'm going to paint that brown and put some ground foam down and bushes and stuff. This is a bridge I built from the Scenic Express makes these girder plates that are flexible, and I screwed them to a custom-made bridge. And this is a hill that I'm working on. Playing with some rock molds. I want to put some rocks here. I'm thinking about putting some rocks over here. I'm not sure how I'm going to make it play out here, if I'm going to do this or something like this. Not sure how I'm going to do it, but I want to put some rock molds in here. I'm going to cover this over with plaster wrap, put some Sculptor mold here to blend it in with the wood, and then put some plaster wrap over it, and then paint it brown and put some ground foam down. Over here is going to be like the outskirts of the downtown area. I don't know what I'm going to do here. Maybe put in like a gas station or something or other. And then over here, where all these rock molds are, I'm going to have a neighborhood, just a suburban neighborhood with a couple of houses where the road will cut across the track here. These are crossings that are made for Fast Track that I bought on eBay. And over here, I acquired this Z4000 from a distant family member. I used to run two Z1000 bricks that I would plug directly into my TIU, and I replaced it with this Z4000, which will enable me to run more trains at the same time. And next to my Z4000, I have my Legacy controller. And this is my TCS controller, but I don't use that anymore. I have a WIU that I use to control all my MTH trains, and I use my old iPhone to run the MTH trains through the WIU. And then underneath here, I know the lighting's not so good, but I've got my TIU with my WIU right here in the middle. And then my two terminal boards, one board for each loop. I have each loop separated into 10 blocks. And then over here is the bridge. I made a water scene. It's not complete here. I know you can't really see it too well because the train's in the way, but I put some deadfall in here and some rocks. I want to put some more greenery around the outside, the edge, give it some vegetation. Eventually I'll be putting up retaining walls up against this elevated track section to make it look more complete. And then over here is a tunnel that I made with shaper sheets. To use some shaper sheets to make tunnel liners. Over here And over here is a custom bridge that I built on my own. I made it from scratch. And I made a couple of how-to videos on my old channel on how I made like this bridge, how I made the tunnel liners for my tunnels, how I weathered my other bridge that I showed you earlier. And over there is the Woodland Scenics rustic water tower on the hill. So as you can see, there's a lot of work that still needs to be done on this layout. The retaining walls, the backdrop, I used a stencil with some white spray paint and held the stencil about an inch away from the backdrop and sprayed to make the clouds, and then I hand painted the hills here with different colors to portray depth. Another update I made on my layout is that I had these shelves here before, but I added a couple more. And then I built these shelves over here to store my trains. And instead of using tubular track like I did with these shelves, what I did was I cut grooves in the wood. It made flangeways for the wheels. I don't know if you can see them. There's a flangeway right here, and there's one right here. And the flanges just kind of drop into the grooves and hold the trains in place. And I really like this design. And each shelf is separated by 5 3/4 inch 2x3 right here in the middle. And it enables me to store about 30 pieces of rolling stock right here, and I'll be adding more shelves around the layout. Okay, I wanted to give you guys a tour of the actual loops and where they go. So the lower loop starts here, the closest track to the camera, comes around, goes through this tunnel here, comes out, goes underneath the upper loop here, goes around over here, goes around behind that elevated section over here, and then it comes out right here on this track here, and it comes down here, goes all the way down, comes down here, goes around on the lower section, goes back underneath the upper section, comes around this way, and goes back down that way. And then starting with the upper loop, where my CXX locomotives are, goes underneath the tunnel here that you see right here, comes out on the outside, on the left-hand side, comes out of there, starts coming up the incline, comes up here, goes over the lower loop here, stays up, comes up, goes over the Silver Bridge, comes around, goes over the Red Bridge, comes around and starts to make its descent down here, and then it goes underneath this single tunnel here, goes this way, and continues on that way, where the CSX locomotives are. And the way I came up with this design, obviously, as you can see, there's some what these are called. People have asked me about these in my videos, what these concrete pillars are. These are sonotubes. Because I have a laundromat upstairs, I have two big machines sitting on a concrete pad that sit on these sonotubes. And it's, when I designed this layout, it created some obstacles on where I could place my tracks. So I came up with this design. I actually didn't come up with it. I don't know if you guys are familiar. There's a layout called B&P Southwestern. The guy's name is Bob Canfield, I believe. He's got a YouTube channel. Really awesome layout. It's called the B&P Southwestern. I actually took his design, went to his website, looked at the design of the layout, and I used a program called AnyRail and AnyRail 6, and took a lot of measurements, and his design of the layout was, ended up fitting in the constraints that I have in this basement. I had to build something to work around these sonotubes, and it really ended up working out quite nice. I really love the design of the layout. It really adds some variety. Each loop does something a little different. It's not just a concentric loop. So that's a little bit of history and update on the layout. I plan on continuing to add scenery on it. There's just so many things that I want to do to it, that it's just everywhere I look, I know there's work that needs to be done. So I hope this explains my layout, and you can have a better idea of what it looks like. So until next time, take care.